Okay, in the air, but waiting minutes to get all people's, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Show. Vamos lá, vamos lá, vamos lá. So, Ariel, one moment aqui.
Okay, no problem.
Então, galera, vamos começar aqui. Já deu a hora, de qualquer forma. Como é a proposta, a ideia que a gente vai fazer, está promovendo o International Women Day, esse ano aqui no GDG Maceió. E para abrir as atividades, que vão ser, o evento vai ser dia 24, a gente convidou a Laurel para fazer uma talk sobre carreira e tudo mais e tal. Meu nome é Elisio Filho, não me apresentei, sou organizador do GDG Maceió. E vamos falar um pouquinho agora aqui com a Laurel, né? Por favor, afie os seus ingleses aí. Hey, Laurel, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Just so, one moment. Okay. How's San Francisco? Beautiful as well?
I've been living in San Francisco for almost 2 years. I moved here from Canada. I was from Toronto, so it's been a change. It's a lot warmer. There's no snow here during the winter, so it's been really nice. But the thing about San Francisco is a lot of people move here from other places, so everyone's very friendly, very willing to help each other out. So I really like that about the city.
Yes, so great. Firstly, I would like to thank you for your willingness to hold this talk and via Hangout to celebration in International Women Day, to show a little more than the woman capable is doing. Okay.
Sorry, you want me to share a little bit about what I think women are capable of doing? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's a great question. Happy International Women's Day, everybody. I wrote a blog post a few months ago called "I Thought I Wasn't the Programmer Type," and it was basically about when I was in university, I thought that maybe I wasn't going to be a software engineer because even though I was very good at it, I didn't do a lot of the other things that other people did. I didn't go to hackathons. I didn't really know a lot about startups and about what was happening. I didn't really play video games, which it seemed like a lot of people played. So for all those reasons, I thought maybe I should do business or something else. And I realized that you actually don't need to be a certain type of a person or have certain hobbies to be a good software engineer, that no matter what you look like or what you do or what your hobbies are, you can be a software engineer. So I think women shouldn't be limited by what they think and people in a profession they want to do should be like, but they should, if they are good at it, if they are passionate about what they want to do, they should go and pursue it.
Great. Lauren, tell more about you work at Google in software engineer at Firebase. Yeah, you tell more?
Yes. So I work on Firebase, which is Google's mobile development platform. So it's a suite of products to help developers build their apps faster and in a more scalable manner. And I work on cloud functions for Firebase on the SDK. So it means I build the library that people use to write their code when they want to create cloud functions. And cloud functions are a way to write serverless code. So you can write logic that runs in response to events happening in your app and deploy that to run on Google servers. And you can trust that it'll scale to 0 when you don't need it, scale to planet scale when your app is getting a lot of traffic. So that's what I work on.
Cool. So you can start the presentation, okay?
Okay, sure. I was asked today to share a little bit about my career advice for software engineers, for women as well. But I think it applies to everybody, not just women. So I want to talk about 3 things I learned that are really important skills for software engineers to develop. The first one is knowing your users. The second one is communication. And the third one is how to learn. So these skills I found have been the most helpful to me, and they're not necessarily technical skills. So the first one, knowing your users. Before I was a software engineer at Google, I worked as a product manager for a startup. So through that, I got to really interact with users a lot. So I would go to do interviews with them, visit their offices. I would bring them in for different usability tests for features we were thinking about launching. And that process taught me that is really the most important part of what makes a product successful. It's how well it solves the needs of the users. So even if it was very well-written code, really well-engineered, but if people don't like it, it won't be successful. You have to throw that away, which is a waste of time. So I think even as an engineer, it's important to know who your users are and to interact with them. So at Firebase, we encourage engineers to do things like help out with customer support, answer GitHub questions, answer Stack Overflow questions, just so we know what users are experiencing, what questions and issues they have. And I find that really helpful. The second skill I learned that was really important as a software engineer is communication. So this is really helpful because mostly you're not working by yourself. If you're working on a big enough project, you'll be working with other software engineers and people that are not engineers, like product managers or marketing or business development. And it's important to be able to communicate something that's technical in a way where people that don't know programming can still understand you. And it's also to communicate an idea that you have before you actually write the code. because I've done this before where I'll write a lot of code and then learn the way I was doing it was wrong. But if I took the time in the beginning to write a document that summarizes the design and sent it to a few people, they could have told me it wouldn't work before I spent all of my time. So communicating before you do something and while you do something is really important and helps everybody get on the same page. The third skill that I learned was the most important is learning. So as a software engineer, when I first started, I thought there was so much I didn't know. I do web programming. I didn't know mobile. I didn't know iOS, Android. I didn't know a lot of languages. Right now I work in TypeScript, but I didn't know it a year ago. So at first I thought it was important to just learn as much as possible. And then I realized there was so much to learn that it would be impossible to learn it all. Sorry. So, and then the other thing is, even if you learned it all, everything changes so fast. So if you learn Angular 2 comes out and you have to learn that again. So really, as a software engineer, it's not about learning everything. It's just about being able to learn new things in a fast manner. So that involves knowing how to use Stack Overflow to ask the right questions, knowing how to read documentation when you're learning something new, or even just knowing what to type into Google. So I thought investing in that and just figuring out what was the best way to learn something new was a good investment of time. So if you're just starting out as a software engineer, maybe it takes some time to ask people that are more experienced. When you have a question, instead of just asking them for help on the question, you can also ask them, how would I search this up? Could you show me how you would look up the answer? And that way you can then get help yourself more easily in the future. Yeah, so those are the skills I thought were important. The other thing I wanted to talk about today was if you are a software engineer or any other role, especially in Brazil right now, I know the tech industry is really booming. A lot of startups, a lot of companies are going there. So how do you pick which company to join? Because that's a really important decision. It'll affect your experience as an engineer and how much you learn, how much you grow. So the two questions I like to ask when I think about whether I want to join a team is, one, are the people that are currently on the team smart and supportive people? So you want them to be smart because you're going to be learning the most from people that you work with. So if you respect them, if you think they really know what they're doing, if you work with them, you'll get to learn from them. And you want them to be supportive as well, because just being smart isn't going to help you if they are unwilling to help, if they are maybe not willing to take their time to answer questions or review your code. That won't be helpful for you either. So make sure they're not only smart, but they're also going to be willing to invest in you and grow you as an engineer. So that's the first question, is who else is at the company? And the second question I would ask myself is, would I personally invest my money into the company? So the two ways I think that plays out is, one, do I think the company's building a product that is actually a good product? So would I use it? Maybe I'll try out the app to see if I like it. If I don't know about the market that they're in, maybe they're building for hospitals and I'm not a doctor, I might go ask someone I know that's in medical school or that's a doctor to see what they think of the product. And I want to make sure it's something that I believe in, that is a positive thing for society, not something that I think is a bad business or exploitive or illegal in any way. I also want to make sure that the people that are at the leadership level, so the founders of the company, or if you're at a big company like Google, maybe the team leader is someone that I would respect and think have the skills to really lead the team. So two questions I ask when I think about joining a company: would I invest and put my own money into the company? And then, are the people that I would work with people that are smart and people that are supportive?
Sounds great, Laura. You tell more about you knowing and more in this career for all peoples and to get more experience in this career.
How would people build experience in
Yeah. Just so and to get more experience.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think if you are starting out in your career, it is important to recognize what are the jobs that have growth opportunities and what are the ones that don't. So maybe a job pays less, but is that a company that is growing? Is that a startup that is on an upward trajectory and you think you'll get more responsibility as you go along? That's probably a good idea. Other things I think are important is to think outside of your job. So for me, my job isn't the only time I learn. So I still go to hackathons as a participant, and that's my way of learning some new languages or frameworks I don't deal with on a regular basis at work. I also like to read a lot outside of work, not only programming books, I also like to read business books or books on psychology or books on biographies of people. So I find that to be a helpful way for me to think, to challenge parts of my brain that are not the technical parts of it. And you can also think about going to conferences. That's where we met. Alicia was at a conference. So that's a good way to build your skill as well and to gain more experience. So I think all of those are good ways of gaining experience if you are someone that's starting out in their career. And the other thing I found was when you're looking for a job, mostly you find jobs through other people that you already know. So if you have friends that's working at a company, you can ask them to refer you to the company and give you a recommendation. Or if you met someone at an event and you have them on LinkedIn and you see that they're working at a company you want to work at, you can reach out to them and say, hey, we met a year ago at this conference. I'm thinking about joining the company you're at. Could you let me know if you like it? Can we have a phone call for 20 minutes and I can ask you more questions about the company? So those are where I found the most number of good opportunities for gaining experience. That was how I got my last job, was through someone that I knew. And actually, my current job at Google, I was also referred to Google by a friend I went to university with. So it was all through people that I knew. So that's also why it's important to be a nice person. I think that's really important because then people are more willing to help you out. And the more relationships you invest in, and the more you try to go to conferences and events and actually ask people questions about themselves, get to know people at a genuine level, not just trying to get to know them artificially, the more you'll be able to build authentic relationships that can then you can then help each other down the road.
Oh, sounds great. Laura, what's your tips for a woman entering to developer world?
For someone that wasn't an engineer that want to become an engineer?
Just so developer in Word, this create code and other things.
Oh, okay, sure. So there are now, because software engineering is so popular, there's a lot of programs for how to do it, to teach you the skills, as well as programs where once you have the skills to help you develop them further. So I think that's really great. If you are living somewhere that has boot camps, it's worthwhile thinking about them. I know some friends that did programming boot camps that then changed their careers afterwards to become engineers, and they've been successful at doing that. I also know people that taught themselves how to program through online courses. So there's an increasing number of them that can be really helpful. I know Google actually gives out scholarships to women that do Udacity courses on computer science. So it's through the Women Techmakers program at Google that you can apply for these scholarships. So I would definitely recommend looking into them. And then there's also programs that will help you gain more skills. So there is a program, if you're a student, called Google Summer of Code, where Google will pay you for the summer to work on an open source project. So you can do this from home. You don't even have to come to the US. And if you're a bit older and you're not a student anymore, you can look into a program called Outreachy. So it's done by Mozilla. And it's the same thing. They'll pay you to do open source projects. And that one's only for women and underrepresented groups. So open source is a great way to gain experience, great way to build your resume. So I would recommend looking into those programs.
So, Laura, I say this because there are still a lot of resistance from women in this word technology. Okay.
Still a lot of what for women?
A lot of resistance in women in interest this word of technology and the developer. Yeah. Just so I have one question for you. Do you have more tips for those watching?
Do I have what? Sorry.
So, do you have any more tips for those watching? Does the I'm sorry, this word of developer and more great career and software engineer? Do you have more tips?
No, I could go on and on. I think there's a lot of things you can do to become a better software engineer. But yeah, let's go with your question. I think that's a really good one. At least in my experience right now, is becoming increasingly more welcoming for women to be in a software engineering role. So I think that's good. The industry in general is moving in a more positive and inclusive direction, not just for women, but for other underrepresented groups as well, like different races, different socioeconomic status, things like that. So I think if you are a woman or an underrepresented minority, right now is a good time to enter into technology. And the other thing I found is there's still a long way to go. So one of them is hiring. I think a lot of companies have recognized that they don't have enough women that apply because one, their people that are at their companies know people that are similar to them, which tend to be men. Or other people that are similar to the majority of society. So they recognize it's important to reach out to more women and get them into these networks. So that's why there's these scholarship programs and other outreach programs that companies are now trying to do to get more women to the table. So as a woman in tech, I think there are subconscious biases. I haven't personally experienced anything that's very outright sexist, but I think it is common for women's work to be less recognized than a man's work. It is common for maybe a woman not to be invited to a meeting that she should have been invited in, or when she's at a meeting for people to not to interrupt her or not really listen to her. And that can be a little discouraging as a woman. But I think the thing that I think about is the more women there are in the field, the more everyone will respect their contributions. So I think we just need to encourage more women to not only join the field, but also be influencers in the field. So we need more women to go speak at conferences, to write technical publications and articles and blog posts. We need more women to show their face so that people know that this is an industry that's inclusive of both men and women, and people can recognize that women can be good software engineers.
So, Lauren, are you a great example to us? And thank you for your time sharing your knowledge with us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really enjoyed being here.
See you soon in San Francisco?
I'm sorry?
See you soon in San Francisco?
Yes, yeah, see you soon. Bye.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Galera, obrigado. Foi uma conversa bem rápida com a Laura mesmo, mas foi só pra gente pegar um pouco do feeling que essa mulher tem muito grande, de muita bagagem. Ela é muito nova, conheço ela pessoalmente, mas ela é uma pessoa fantástica, não só em conhecimento da área de tecnologia, desenvolvimento, mas também como pessoa e como mulher, que é essa proposta da gente em mostrar que as mulheres podem realmente fazer o que elas quiserem, elas são empoderadas, elas conseguem realmente mudar o mundo. Um exemplo disso é a Laurel. Eu conheci ela em São Francisco, no Google I.O., mas assim, de vista, mas ela veio para cá o ano passado para o Dev Fest da gente e foi demais. Ela conseguiu realmente passar uma grande quantidade de conhecimento num hackathon que ela fez aqui. Muito obrigado por assistirem. É uma coisa simplória, mas que muitas pessoas precisam ver que elas podem. E nesse caso em si, as mulheres, que é a proposta da gente, mostrar que a mulher pode, ela consegue fazer isso, ela consegue entrar no Google, ela consegue ir para qualquer empresa que ela quiser, porque ela tem esse peso, esse valor e essa determinação. Um exemplo é a L'Oreal. É isso aí, galera. Obrigado. Foi mais um hangout da gente aí. E quem sabe, até mais. Quem for de Maceió, por favor, compareça ao International Women Day aqui, dia 24 de março. A gente tem mais informações lá no Facebook da gente e até no Meetup também. Qualquer coisa, procura gdgmaceió.org e você vai ver todas as informações lá. Obrigado, galera. Até mais. Um abraço.